President Donald J. Trump at Mar-a-Lago, the Winter White House, talking about the operation by U.S. Special Operations Forces to target Venezuelan forces and to capture Nicolás Maduro, the disputed president of Venezuela, and his wife, giving way to the Secretary of War, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and the Secretary of State to explain all of that. Before this briefing, he posted on Truth Social a picture of disputed President Nicolás Maduro, said to be aboard the USS Iwo Jima, that will eventually transport him to a private plane along with his wife to New York, the Southern District of New York, where they will face charges and a prosecution of an indictment that was brought down in 2020. But the biggest headline from this news conference that's making headlines all over the world is President Trump saying that the U.S. will run Venezuela until a suitable transition happens. The definition of what that looks like, not clear. He said he has people working on it. It is being worked on, but saying that the U.S. will run the country of Venezuela, a country of about 30 million people. A lot of questions surrounding that. But the precision strike and the U.S. military action praised by all corners today. I'm Brett Baer. Please stay tuned to Fox News Channel and this Fox station for continuing coverage of the U.S. capture of disputed Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. Stay tuned for your local broadcast. Back here on Fox News Channel, joining us now, Jacqui Heinrich, back with us live from the North Lawn. Jacqui, I want to play just a piece of the soundbite where that news came out about running Venezuela. Take a listen.
We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
There were a number of questions about that, at which point the president said, we, the administration, are not afraid of boots on the ground. In other words, U.S. forces on the ground in Venezuela. That is counter to a lot of what he's talked about in foreign policy, and you're already seeing some corners of the Republican Party raising questions about that. Thoughts on this press conference and what comes out of it?
Yeah, right. You heard both the president and also War Secretary Pete Hegseth defend that statement as America first, saying it is in the U.S. national interest to have good neighbors. However, the idea of having a U.S. presence on the ground for as long as it takes to install a new, friendly, trustworthy government is an open question. What does that look like? How long does it take? And the president said basically the people in that room with him are going to be the ones effectively running the operation as that gets fleshed out. Two pieces of information that were noteworthy, I thought. The president was asked, what about the opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado? Will the U.S. throw its weight behind her? And President Trump said that he does not believe that she has the support or respect within the country to show up as its leader, and also revealed that Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in active talks with the sitting vice president of the country, who Maduro handpicked and installed, but said that she is effectively willing to do whatever it takes, whatever the U.S. believes is necessary to make Venezuela great again. The president talked at length about what rebuilding Venezuela would look like and the role of American oil companies in rebuilding the infrastructure and getting the production to a level that the president thinks is necessary. He said that for a long time, the Venezuelan oil business has been a bust, but spoke about really having a strong hand, the U.S., in rebuilding the infrastructure and bringing that oil to market. He said there is still a full embargo on Venezuelan oil and that there is a ready force posture in the region to make sure that this doesn't devolve into a destabilized situation. He said that there were boots on the ground yesterday and that he sort of indicated that the flotilla will remain until such time as a new government comes into effect. But it looks like from this press conference, it may not involve the opposition leader, and potentially, depending on the conversations that unfold with the U.S. and the what's left of the Maduro regime, could maybe involve the sitting vice president, Brett.
Yeah, and Jacqui, you know, a lot of this press conference dealt with the amazing action by the U.S. military, praising them for the strategic effort, the tactical effort, and getting Nicolás Maduro and his wife out of there. How it was done, we heard the chairman of the Joint Chiefs go into detail about the training leading up to this moment. However, coming out of it, all of the headlines, pretty much all of the headlines, are dealing with the U.S. running Venezuela. Having covered the Pentagon during the early days of the Iraq War, gone to Iraq, the early days days of Viceroy Paul Bremer and the Baathists who left Saddam Hussein and became terrorists on the ground, there is this specter of U.S. boots on the ground in a country that may not be favorable to us in one way or another. The president is answering those questions, saying it's going to be a transition to get to another government. However, there are real questions about how long that would take and what that looks like.
Certainly a lot of questions, especially from the America First faction of his base. At the same time, you hear from those same people justification for taking out Maduro, who has been indicted in the Southern District of New York and is now bound for the U.S. to face trial on narco-terrorism charges. But how long it takes for a new government to come into effect, the role of the U.S. forces on the ground in the interim, and then what kinds of partners come into play in shaping that government, and the role of American businesses as well, is certainly big news coming out of this. The way the president was speaking about this operation this morning framed it really as an act of sort of extradition to bring Maduro to justice for his crimes, and less of a regime change operation. But the press conference that we just saw unfold indicates that regime change is a big piece of what is to follow, and the U.S. wants to have a hand in shaping that. He said that we don't want to watch a government come to pass in Venezuela that does not protect the interests of the Venezuelan people, but also American national interests, the interests of this hemisphere, and that he is not afraid of taking a strong role. The president's not afraid of taking a strong role in showing up to that effort, and that is going to be a debate on how that is America first. He defended it very strongly, and we expect to see more of that in the coming days, Brett.
And we've seen these big moves, the strike in Iran against the nuclear facility, taking out Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, this move. You've seen big moves by this president. And one thing is clear, the Venezuelan population here in the U.S. and arguably on the ground in Venezuela is celebrating Nicolás Maduro leaving power. There are many questions